I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 1:12 p.m. is our start time. There are no public attendees, so we'll begin the roll of commissioners present in the room with Commissioner Ludlow. Would you mind starting us off, please?
Kevin Ludlow, present.
Lisa Elovich, present.
Sally Thompson, present.
W. William Smith, present.
Kathy Kiley, present.
Tina Stanford.
Gail Hallerden, present. Christina Hernandez, present.
Otis Cruz, present.
Laurie Fisher, executive assistant, present. Melissa Fleming, present.
And Ms. Colucci is, as usual, doing a wonderful job video taping our meeting. Has everyone received the minutes of the March 14th, 2016 meeting? And if so, are there any changes in terms of additions or corrections that anyone would like to make to those minutes? And I'd like to entertain a motion with respect to those minutes when someone is ready.
Sure. I don't know, I talked to Laurie Fisher briefly. We had a pretty substantial discussion about the criminal history, and I don't know if that's just included in Bridging the Gap, because I know there was going to be a follow-up discussion, but I didn't know if we needed to know. We had a discussion about whether the facilities were correctly aware of putting the out-of-state federal and juvenile criminal histories. But I don't know if you want to amend that or just leave it at Bridging the Gap, and then she's addressing it later on in the meeting.
That was part of Bridging the Gap, and we've been dealing with it as part of Bridging the Gap process. In reviewing all of the conversation, and there was quite a lot of conversation about a lot of these different bullet points, I erred on the side of including less of the conversation and just for highlights, unless, of course, we took a vote. So,
So if it's being discussed today, that's fine.
we will discuss it again today.
But I'm fine with what is there. I'd make a motion, we accept it.
I second it.
A motion made by Commissioner William Smith to accept the minutes as presented, seconded by Commissioner Hernandez. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of accepting these minutes as accepted, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any nays? Perhaps from someone who was not present?
Abstain.
Okay.
Abstain due to absence.
Okay. So Commissioner Ludlow and Hallerden abstain?
Yes.
And the motion is otherwise carried. Thank you. Okay, old business. With respect to future board training, looking ahead at the calendar, I've tried to identify 2 dates in May that it appears there are no vacations. So I'm looking at May 5th and May 19th. So note your calendars. We'll send out invitations for 2 board trainings. We're doing these on a Thursday. We're doing these between approximately 10 a.m. and noon. And I'd like to ask that for your mandatory attendance, because I think it's important that we all get this information at once, and to the extent we need to be discussing things related to the training, it's important that we all get it. So by making it mandatory, everybody's going to get it. Again, we'll be video conferenced to your various locations. And then if by chance someone is out sick or unable to attend because of some emergency, then we'll just have to have it again for that number of people so that they can have the benefit of this training. The first training that I'm looking at, because of litigation that we can discuss a little further during our executive session, is on decision writing. The next one will be either on rescission or medical parole. And then whichever isn't on the 19th, we'll follow up with the other probably sometime in June. So I just wanted you to note those dates and the times, and again, my respectful request that you all attend so that we can all be on the same page with the training that will primarily be provided by our council with some assistance from other subject matter experts as needed. The next item is policy, procedure, and directive discussion. And today I'd like to call for a vote on video conferencing. As I promised I would at our last meeting, I did reach out to deputy commissioners that I thought were relevant to our consideration for their opinion, that I thought was relevant for our consideration within DOCS, administration, program services, community supervision, to see, if they had any concerns at all with us changing our video conferencing location from Rochester to Buffalo. And the only thing I got back from program services was a request that we keep Rochester with Rochester. So I'm looking for a vote today on video conferencing Attica, Wyoming, and Wendy interviews from Buffalo, and then moving the Rochester work release interviews to the board that also sees and interviews inmates at 5 Points, Groveland, and Livingston. The weeks won't change, just where we video conference from. So with that, is there any other discussion that we need to put on the record? And for the sake of security, I don't want to get into addresses and anything like that, and I may be intentionally vague on some points, like I said, for security reasons. But I thought we were pretty much in agreement that this was something that we wanted. We were in favor of at the last meeting, so I'm trying to go swiftly through this. But you had a question?
I'm sorry, I wasn't at the last meeting. And I was approached by someone from Attica Correctional Facility and someone from Wyoming, and their only concern, they have no problem with Buffalo, they would love Buffalo, is there's a parking issue in Buffalo for them. That's the only thing. If they would be...
That's not a concern that the staff,
that's the
facility staff, they're going to have to work that out. Docs will have to work that out for them.
Because there is parking. No, that's not the issue. In Buffalo, when it's snowing, where they have to park, because very often there's not enough underground parking, they have to pull those things all the way down the block. All I'm saying is that while I understand that might be, the facilities issue and responsibility, many of the people that we see carrying these boxes and pulling these loads are females. So I just throw it out there, what we do with it.
Well,
I just...
I think sometimes they pull into the underground garage and offload, and then they take the van out.
and that would seem to be a reasonable.
That would be reasonable if that can be
That-
arranged.
And actually, Area Supervisor Jeff Jones, who, I don't know who I was with this week, he came in and confirmed they could do that. So, and it's, which is much wiser.
Isn't that concern?
Even in good weather. So, but he came in, and I believe, I don't know if it was myself, Sharkey, and Ellen Alexander. She wasn't here, that's why I was looking for who was the third. So, but he has said absolutely they can bring the folders in, which is a good
Then that's a
thing to
good
point out. And
concern.
actually, I'll be talking to them probably this week.
That was the only concern.
And that's a good one, in consideration for the security of that staff, the physical labor involved in transporting those files, and the security of the files.
And the security of the files, yeah.
And that's a big one. So, if there's no further questions or discussion, I'd be happy to entertain a motion with respect to a vote as I presented it.
When are we planning to do that?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on what's happening, because I wasn't clear the way you had it. Attica, Wyoming, the video conference from Buffalo.
Yes.
Rochester, 5 Points, Groveland, and video conference from Rochester,
Yes.
and the weeks won't change.
Right.
Okay.
Because the concern was, the board meeting is,
And I know, I remember that concern.
okay,
So it is what it is.
okay.
So, is there a vote? Is there a motion?
You want to also repair on this?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
What boards, are we starting in June?
June.
What week of the month are we talking about?
3rd and 4th.
Is it possible that will conflict with,
It may. And that was part of the conversation at the last meeting.
Right, we had talked about
So, I mean, if, people have to travel out west who are normally stationed east and downstate, and, because they need to get on the road early, that makes the board meeting problematic for them, they will be so excused. Okay?
thank you.
Want to make a
I'll make a
motion?
motion that we move the Attica, Wyoming, Wendy video to Buffalo from Rochester for the mileage, cost benefit it makes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner William Smith, seconded by Commissioner Elovich. And I would like you to note that, if you would, in our minutes. Are you ready for the question?
So, and it's to begin in May, in June. Okay, so May, we're still there. Okay,
Right.
all right.
So, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Are there any abstentions? Okay, that motion is carried. Now we'll move on to new business. I just want to highlight for you, and I believe everybody has a copy, that we made some changes to the year schedule beginning, I think, with May. What we discovered, or Lori discovered actually, our executive assistant discovered, we had several weeks, the way that the schedule had originally been done, we had several months which the first board week of that month was starting the last calendar week of the month preceding, which creates that problem for us that we sometimes have unavoidably of having 1 month within another month. One first week of a board for a certain month actually physically falling on a calendar date that's in the month preceding. So then you're in a situation sometimes where on Tuesday you're calling out March as in terms of figuring out how many months into the future, and for the next day you're calling out April. So we try to avoid that as much as possible so that when you're counting your months in terms of hold decisions, you're consistent. So the June board are June cases as much as possible. The July board is July cases, and so on. So when we made changes so that we could keep the calendar months consistent with the board months as much as possible, it had some corresponding effects. So if you compare what you got today to what you've gotten previously, like the beginning of the year, I think we handed out the 2016 schedule, you'll see that it's added, it's changed the weeks where we don't have boards somewhat. Like there are 2 weeks in May that we don't have boards as opposed to 1 week in May. And instead of going through the whole month of December, which the first calendar had, the 4th week there will be no boards. So you can compare if you need to, but that's the reason why, and I just wanted to highlight it to your attention, just so that you can discard, destroy the first schedules you had and use these in their place. And Lorraine has updated the vacation schedule as well. It didn't change your vacations, but it may have changed the particular board week that you will not be available.
And I just want to add one note, the 4th week of July, the holds will, even though it's occurring the first week of August, the holds will still have to be from July. And the reason for that is you cannot hold them 25 months. If you hold them in August, you would be holding them 25 months. So even though that hold is occurring the first week in August, the holds will still have to be from July, because you cannot hold them March 24th.
And so we have no boards the week of May 23rd?
No work, right, no work the week of the 23rd and the 30th, and that's to make sure, we're trying to make sure that the holds all occur in the right month, so
Right,
that
right.
the boards are in that month, the holds are from that month. And
Okay.
that's the reason for the updated calendar.
Okay.
So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. So, like I said, destroy your older schedules for the balance of 2016 and replace with these. All right. The other item of new business that Commissioner Smith had mentioned, which was the discussion on criminal histories and the way that the board has consistently requested we be presented with criminal histories from out of state and federal. We've had our very first Bridging the Gap meeting with seasoned professionals within program services, SORCs and ORCs, who are very good at what they do, and they have been recommended to us internally by our executive assistant as well as by DOCS. Their assistant commissioners have recommended them. We had our very first meeting. We talked about that issue. There seems to be a sense that, you have different facilities doing different things, but one of the first things that we did when that issue was first raised was elevate it to the assistant commissioner and deputy commissioner for program services, and they pushed out the direction to the facilities that were having a problem with it initially. So we hope that we'll see some improvement there, but we're really trying to make any improvements that we come up with statewide. We don't want, to have certain facilities doing it the proper way and other facilities not. So that's the purpose of Bridging the Gap. We've had 2 commissioners who have expressed an interest in joining us in that work and having those meetings. So Commissioner Hernandez was represented, Commissioner Elovich, and myself. Lori, of course, meeting with the SORCs and ORCs to talk about these issues that we keep seeing recurring and how best to push it out throughout the system. So that was one of the topics that we discussed, and we're trying to approach it from different perspectives. So there hopefully will be some improvement from the facilities we've had a problem with, because they have specifically been given direction by their chain of command, and we hope that we can come up with some uniform direction going forward on that issue and others. Is there any other question or concern with that particular subject? Let's see if there's anything else I want to follow up on. I still need to make the arrangements with respect to the Mariah shock boxes, and I decided, because we didn't quite have 14 people interested from the board on the APAI membership, to extend it to our council, for example, our deputy council, to see if there's anyone else that might be interested in joining before I can send out a certain amount per person who is interested. So that's still forthcoming. I don't have any other items of new business. Does anyone else have anything they want to raise today that we wouldn't otherwise discuss in executive session? Okay, so we'll move forward to correspondence, announcements, and invitations. And I just want to share, I always like to share good news, and I think this is something good. When we get them, I want to be able to share with people. Let's see, could you pass those? Kevin, when they come over, get down to you if you would. Maybe, Talissa, you could come and take them to the other side. I'm not going to say the person's name, but I got a letter from a gentleman, and I'll just read it. It's very brief, but I'm passing around pictures that he enclosed with his letter. Dear Chairwoman Stanford, on May 15, 2015, I was released from Woodburn Correctional Facility as a result of a decision rendered by the New York Parole Board. For the last 10.5 months, I have been residing in another state with my wife. While this has been a tremendous blessing, living in the free world is not without its challenges after having been incarcerated for 24.5 years. I have had adjustment issues. Living in New York, I never learned how to drive. While that may be all right in New York with all the mass transit, it is not okay in this other state. As I had to get my learner's permit and take some driving lessons before I passed the road exam and received my license. So far, I haven't hit anything except some bushes in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. Finding full-time employment has been challenging. I have had a couple of interviews but have not been hired. This is very frustrating, but I keep on looking. I do volunteer a few hours a week at a nonprofit organization called Hearts to Nourish Hope. This is an organization that provides help for young men that find themselves homeless. I help facilitate substance abuse classes and anger management skills. I enjoy this work, and I hope that it may eventually turn into a full-time paid job. Between helping my wife and family, keeping up the maintenance of a community garden, and my work at Hearts, I stay busy. Sometimes I feel as if I have to make up for lost time, but I know that this is unrealistic. Every day, I am grateful that God has blessed me with a beautiful wife, family, and community. I am thankful that I can be a positive influence on those within my sphere of influence. Thank you for letting me share and let you know how I am doing, sincerely. And then he says, P.S., included are pictures of me and my family. And there's a particularly nice picture that I like with him on a beach with a sunset in the background. This is a gentleman who came up and was released at his LCTA appearance, and he had been convicted of murder in the second degree, attempted murder in the second degree, and assault in the first degree. So, like I said, when I get good reports, I want to share those with you. If you're interested in more details about his case, I have the transcript and more information if you're interested. But letters like that encourage me, and I hope they encourage you to know that we get good feedback from some of our decisions too, not all just bad. So is there any other announcement that anyone would like to make? Other invitations that they want to announce or anything? Okay. With that being said then, I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session to discuss matters regarding litigation and other confidential decisions that we need to make. And at the conclusion of executive session, adjourn the meeting. Is there such a motion?
Motion that we enter into an executive session and at the conclusion of such meeting.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Hallernan. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Ludlow. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Okay, we are in executive session. Thank you very much.